Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing episode 2 of Star Focus. We are going to be doing Rita Hayworth. The reason I wanted to do Rita Hayworth is because although I've always seen her picture, she's very glamorous and she's in very famous films, I actually didn't know much about her life. You know, I really want to do some research on that, and I am going to put a trigger warning before the beginning of this. She hasn't had an easy life. We are going to be delving into some things that are not very palatable. So I'm going to get started. Gotta get this makeup done. Okay, I've just brought you in a little bit closer. Like I did in the last one, I'm going to be following a picture. I'm going to follow this one here, which I will pop on screen. This is a good one because it is a colour/colorized photo, so I can see what sort of shades she might wear. So Rita Hayworth was born Margarita Carmen Cancino in Brooklyn on the 17th of October 1918. She was born into a dancing family and her father was a Spanish dancer, Eduardo Cancino, and her mother was called Volga Hayworth, and she actually danced for the Ziegfeld Follies. She also had 2 brothers. She once recalled, and it's a quote, so I'm going to read the quote. "From the time I was 3 and a half, as soon as I could stand on my own 2 feet, I was given a dance lesson." She noted, "I didn't like it very much, but I didn't have the courage to tell my father, so I began taking the lessons. Rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. That was my girlhood." At the age of 12, their family moved to LA, and she, by this time, called herself Rita Cancino. And whilst there, she started dancing professionally with her father, mainly in California and Mexico. Okay, so here starts some of the trigger warning content. There are several reports that Rita's father was an alcoholic and that he physically and sexually assaulted Rita whilst they were on their travels together dancing. They shared a bed at hotels, and when they went on stage, he actually introduced her as his wife and not as his daughter, as his dancing partner, which is kind of gross. The two did 4 shows a day, and they would do 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, and he would use the time in the middle to sexually assault her. We know this information because not only did she mention it to one of her future husbands, but also lots of biographers write about this in various books about her life. Eduardo also made her wear very skimpy outfits on stage. A lot of people thought they were quite risque, and Volga tried to put a stop to this, but unfortunately, due to various reasons, she just couldn't. And when I mean various reasons, it could be so many things. It could have been maybe she was scared of her husband, or maybe she just didn't have the power, maybe no one would listen to her, you know. Really, it's insanely infuriating reading and researching what women had to put up with in the past and how many of those claims were taken seriously. Okay, so on this picture, it looks like they have thinned her nose out with some contouring. To avoid child labour laws, Rita's father made her work on casino boats in the US and in Mexico in nightclubs. It was while she was on stage in Mexico that she was spotted by a producer who worked for Fox, and she went on to sign a contract with them. After signing with Fox, she starred in several different films such as Dante's Inferno and Human Cargo. And then in 1937, she married her first husband. Her first husband was called Edward Charles Judson. He was 41, she was 18 years old. A lot of people felt like she rushed into this marriage, and mainly it was because she just wanted to escape her father so much, and I can't really blame her. During her time at Fox, Edward has been her manager. He basically used her as a massive cash cow, and he was the one who actually sort of molded her into the image of Rita Hayworth that we know today. So he got her to drop her Spanish surname and take Hayworth. He also forced her to get electrolysis on her hairline because he told her that she basically needed to drop everything that was Latin about her, and that being more Caucasian would give her more commercial success, which sadly is probably true during the time. Over their marriage, he lied about money and he coerced her into doing work that she didn't really want to do because he convinced her that it would get her a contract in the long run. Eventually, she did sign with Columbia Pictures. Because of her change in appearance, it allowed Rita to play roles that were usually reserved to white women. The studio used her in roles where they wanted both. They wanted the wholesome middle-class white woman, and they also wanted the fetishized exotic Latina. To my mind, this is kind of crazy, like taking a Spanish woman, making her look white, and then use them in roles that were stereotyped as Latin. So for their case, it means like sexy or fiery. And it kind of like made the character seem more wild because they still sort of kept their wholesomeness. They created this character that felt like they could be tamed. She just needed the right man to come along, or that woman would be tamed. And that's kind of real deep patriarchy bull honky. So Rita Hayworth was a huge star for Columbia. She starred in huge movies and opposite actors such as James Cagney, and she danced with Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire actually once said that he loved dancing with her and said that she was his favourite dance partner. Sorry, Ginger. She's got a bit more highlight going on here. She's going to do that. After managing to make a name for herself, she eventually left her husband. The divorce was granted, but he took a huge chunk of real estate with him and as much money as he could. After rejecting the head of Columbia, Harry Cohn, who was a man that she actively hated, she had a few brief engagements with actors Victor Mature and Howard Hughes. After both of those engagements not ending in marriage, she ended up marrying Orson Welles. Orson Welles was besotted with Rita Hayworth. He would write her love letters, he would invite her to hang out with his friends, he would make the opportunity to have a conversation with her whenever he could. She in turn loved spending time with him. They ended up getting married and they soon had a child together. It was during this time that Rita filmed and released her most famous film of all, Gilda. Rita Hayworth was at the top of her game, but this also had some downsides. After creating such a famous character, people thought that she was Gilda, and they would assume that she was like the character, that she was loud and outspoken, when actually she was quite introverted and quiet and thoughtful and hardworking. She once famously said, "Men go to bed with Gilda and they wake up with me." Rita was quiet and professional. She adored spending time with her family, but as she was getting more and more famous, this was just becoming impossible to achieve. Orson once recalled the first time he ever saw her flew into a rage. This was after she discovered her picture had been taped to the first test atom bomb. In fact, Orson had to convince her that Harry Cohn hadn't done this as a marketing or publicity stunt. When Rita had these rages, she would scream, she would break furniture, she would cry about her parents, and she would go up into the Hollywood Hills and drive in a way that was described as suicidally. Orson Welles often had to get in the car with her to stop this from happening. I'm using this old sleek palette. It's called Enchanted Forest 98. The reason I want to use this palette is because it has this like creamy white colour, and it has this like bluey cornflower colour which she seems to have on her eyes in the picture. So back to Orson. So after a while he started seeing other people on the side. By the time they went to divorce, he actually relied on Rita for complete financial backing. He had made some bad investments and they hadn't come off. And he was also being investigated with the Red Scare, being a communist. So a lot of Hollywood had blacklisted him. The couple finally divorced in 1947. After the divorce, Rita Hayworth went to Paris and started doing some charitable work. It was during this time when she was giving a speech, she was noticed by Prince Ali Khan. He quickly fell in love with her, but after 2 divorces, she was not very keen. And he actually pursued her like across France. He sent her love letters, he sent her flowers, he sent her gifts, basically anything that could kind of like convince her. Eventually she accepted his marriage proposal, but many people said that he was definitely more in love with her than she was with him. Prince Ali Khan's family were incredibly rich, probably at that time the richest in Europe. His father was a leader of the Muslim people. Family had lots of lucrative businesses, the biggest one which was probably horse racing. Like I said, the family were Muslim, and although she considered converting at one point, ultimately she never did. After a few years, Prince Ali was spotted dancing with other actresses in clubs, people such as Joan Fontaine, and she again flew into absolute rages. These were becoming kind of famous for Rita at this point. She packed up her things and moved to Reno with her daughter Princess Yasmin and filed for divorce. It's reported that Prince Ali offered her $1 million to have Yasmin move back to Europe from the age of 7 and bring her up in the Muslim faith. But she declined this. She didn't want the money, and she said that if Yasmin was going to be brought up in the US, she would benefit from growing up as a Christian. And that's, I mean, it's not easy now to be any kind of different religion in America, let alone Muslim, so she was probably onto something really. In the picture I've got, it doesn't look like she has like a winged line or anything. I need to get talking. I'm only at husband number 3. So in the 50s, Rita Hayworth returned to the movies and she quickly met her 4th husband, Dick Haymes. Dick Haymes had been quite a successful singer, and he had been in big bands, but unfortunately now the success was dwindling and he was very low on money. At the time he owed alimony to both of his ex-wives, and he had lots of debt with the IRS. There was also a rumour going around that he was supposed to be deported back to Argentina, and that's why they got married so quickly. After 2 years of marriage, Rita left Dick. During a heated argument, he slapped her across the face and she packed her bags and never saw him again. She was incredibly short on money because he had basically drained all of her resources. She tried to get child support from Prince Ali and from Orson Welles, but sadly she was not able to get this. Finally, Rita married her 5th husband, James Hill, in 1958. This marriage did not last long. During this marriage, she starred in her last major motion picture, and although critics generally liked the film, they were very critical of Rita's performance in it. The couple ultimately divorced because he wanted her to carry on starring in films, and she didn't. She just wanted to retire and paint. Charlton Heston once described a meal with them as the most embarrassing night of my entire life. He and his wife Lydia watched Hill tear Rita Hayworth down until she was virtually in tears. Despite wanting to slug him, he and his wife left. He later wrote that, "I was ashamed from walking away from Miss Hayworth's humiliation. I never saw her again." Okay, I want to talk lashes for a second. I have seen many pictures now of Rita Hayworth, and she has ginormous fake lashes on in every single thing. I'm gonna hold up some. I mean, I know, we'll see what I think. We've got some 3/4 here. We've got some bigger wispies. These huge Ardel wispies. Minnie Mouse lashes. I think the wispies are bigger. I think we're gonna go with those. By the late 50s, Rita had started to ebb away from Hollywood's spotlight. She maintained it's because they wanted to keep projecting a certain image of her, and she wanted roles that would show more depth and acting ability from her. Around this time, the press speculated that she was maybe starting to show signs of an illness such as Alzheimer's, but her family just maintained that it's because she was a drinker, she had alcoholism. The biggest symptoms she had really were these rages and memory lapses, which in fairness could have been down to both. And if you're seeing someone like a drink, then maybe you don't want to admit there's a bigger problem. Either way, down to some not so positive press, it was clear that Rita Hayworth was fading into obscurity. In an article by Vanity Fair, there were reports that she would let her dogs out at night and go out and talk to neighbours. She once threw a drink in Adele Astaire's face, that's Fred Astaire's sister. She once invited Ann Miller and her friend round to dinner and actually chased them out with a butcher's knife, saying that she wouldn't see autograph seekers, they were on private property and they had to get out. The next day she called Miller asking why she didn't come round for dinner. In the mid-70s, her brothers passed away quite close to each other, and it caused Rita Hayworth to drink even more, and in 1976 was removed from a flight from going into yet another rage. After this incident, Rita Hayworth stopped drinking, and in 1980 she was finally diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She was placed into a conservatorship with her daughter, Princess Yasmin Aga Khan. By the time she died in 1987, she had become one of the first public faces of Alzheimer's disease. This helped people recognize symptoms and come forward. And a few years later, Ronald Reagan, who also had Alzheimer's, came forward publicly. Between them, the federal funding went from 146 million to 650 million. It just shows you like the power of positive press sometimes. Okay, let's do some lips. Look at the picture, and she's got quite a specific lip shape. I'm using this lalaland Colourpop liquid lipstick. She does appear to have a little bit of gloss on there as well. I'm just going to put a little bit of 8 Hour cream on. My battery just died, so I just charged you up there a little bit. While I was off camera, I just corrected the shape of my lips a little and tight lined my eyes. Rita Hayworth lapsed into a semi-coma in February 1987. She died at the age of 68 a few months later due to complications from Alzheimer's. She was interned at Holy Cross Cemetery, Culver City, and her headstone includes Yasmin's sentiment: to yesterday's companionships, to tomorrow's reunion. Her daughter Yasmin holds a Rita Hayworth gala annually in New York and Chicago. Since the first one that they held in 1985, they have raised over $18 million. Okay, so there we have it, Rita Hayworth's makeup. It is quite something. It's quite structural, and I like the romantic eye that's going on here. Obviously, I don't have her face shape. I'm not trying to recreate her face shape as such, just where the makeup would have been put. If you like this, then please like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching. I upload every Friday, and I hope to see you around. Bye.